We have here the RK C98 magnetic keyboard in the 90% layout. 90% magnetic keyboards are rare, as most gamers still prefer a smaller form factor. However, if you're looking for a good hybrid between functionality, speed, and magnetic Hall effect switches, then this may be the one you're looking for. Hi, I'm Daniel with the Biboyharanero team. We've been reviewing keyboards, mice, and audio gear since 2019. Consider subscribing so you're always updated with our new video releases and tech updates. Anyhow, with regards to gaming, I used this in the past few days for FPS games and even open world games, and it did perform as expected. No delays thanks to the 8000Hz polling rate matched with 64,000Hz scan rate. And as you would expect, this has all key anti-ghosting or NKRO, however you want to call it. In other words, you can press all buttons at the same time with no interferences. I loved how light the switches are, as this only has 37 grams of required actuation force. They're not made by Gateron, though they look like Gateron Jades. More on this later in the switches segment of this video. This is a hot swap keyboard, so you could replace the switches, though I'm not sure about the switch compatibility of the PCB on this keyboard. Different switches have different magnets within, and this could potentially cause incompatibility with your PCB. However, you do get extra switches in the box along with the keyboard, so in case any switches fail, you have a backup. This, by the way, if I haven't already mentioned and if it's not already obvious, is a wired keyboard. And it's wired because it's an 8K polling rate keyboard, which is difficult to transmit over wireless dongles. It is currently possible for mice, but not yet for keyboards. I think this keyboard is a really good option if you're looking for a hybrid keyboard that will do the job in terms of typing, having a numpad. However, the wider size of the keyboard may potentially be an issue for mouse space. Magnetic keyboards greatly depend on software performance, so let's go over that here in the next segment. So I have here the software of the C98. First and foremost, you'll get the configurations list right here, so you can have up to 4 profiles that you can configure. Moving on, the first tab right here is for lighting. You get an off mode, static mode, dynamic, and custom lighting for each key. Performance setting here is where you set your actuation points. Click on select all and adjust accordingly here at the global travel slider. Now for rapid trigger settings, you also have that option right here. For advanced settings, here's where you set your dead zones. For keyboard adjustments, this is where you do your calibration for each of your keys. For the custom key here, you get the normal keys for key binding, number, symbolic, basic key, and you also get the layers right here. And also the OS, by the way. Moving on, here's where you set up advanced magnetic features, but that we will go over in the next segment. Onto macro management, I have here a macro that I've already recorded, and one thing I noticed is that this does not detect your mouse clicks, and you cannot insert mouse clicks here as well. For the update tab here, this is where you upgrade your keyboard's firmware or do any factory reset. Please read through the instructions before you do any kind of upgrades. Now onto advanced magnetic features here, let's set up DKS real quick. So this is dynamic keystroke, and I mainly use this for sprinting in games. So if I press on W, I want that to activate from 1.4, actually, let's make that 1 mil down to 3 mils. I want that to work in synergy with left shift, which is my sprint button, and I want left shift to activate once I reach 3 mils, basically pressing down the whole key. So this is how it's gonna work. If I save that, I go in game right here. If I press on W, I'm walking. If I hold down W all the way down, I'm gonna automatically sprint because it's holding down shift key for me. Moving on, the next feature we have here is MPT. I forgot what MPT means, but this basically allows you to use one key for 3 different functions depending on how deep your keystroke is. Actually, I'm not gonna save that. I don't want that messing with my controls. Moving on, we have here mod tap. Basically, it allows you to have 2 different functions in one key with just a press or a hold. So we have here, let me add an escape key there. So I'm setting that up on escape key. Find escape key right here. So if I tap on escape key, it's going to function as escape key. But if I hold it, it's going to move on to configuration or profile number 2. You can also set the delay right here. So I have it at 0.2 seconds or 200 milliseconds, and let me save that. Next, we have toggle key. So if I set toggle key onto shift key, okay, if I press on shift, where's left shift? There you go. If I hold on to this button for about 200 milliseconds, it's going to hold down the key for me without me having to press it all the way. Next feature we have is the end key. So basically what this does is it will activate a button in your keyboard if you let go of one key. So I have that set up on Z, and what it will do is I want it to activate right control when I let go of Z. So the way this actually is applicable in games is if you press Z and go prone in a, say, in a Warzone game, right control should be bound to something like aim down sights. So when you press on Z, it will automatically aim down sight for you. Next, we have here SOCD. So I'll have that bound on to A and D. Click on SOCD, drag A there, drag D here. This is the setting that I always use. I don't use the others. Click on save, and now you have SOCD set up on A and D. Lastly, you have macro settings. Basically, you can bind any macros that you've already pre-recorded and set it up on a specific key. Inside the box, you get the keyboard, manual, cable, key puller combo, 4 extra magnetic switches, and a PET anti-dust cover. The cable is generic but does have really good silicone coating around it. Onto the keyboard. It is fairly heavy but somewhat average for a 90% keyboard. Tapping underneath the keyboard, there's a level of hollowness to it. However, the internals of the keyboard is fully dampened as shown in the B-roll. About the top case, it does feel sturdy and the plastic materials feels thick and is something you could expect from Royal Kludge keyboards in general. At the top side of the keyboard is where you will find the USB-C input, pan to the left. Then underneath, you will find rubber pads so it doesn't slip around your desk, along with a pair of 2-level kick-up feet. The knob is made of aluminum, and I know because it feels cold, and it does have a really good ample silent clicky feedback. Even with a headset on, you'd know once you've twisted a level down or a level up. And having a knob is really good so you can adjust volumes on the fly without having to alt-tab out of a game and adjusting Windows volume levels. This does have volume control on the F10, F11, and F12 keys, but for some reason, I never got to master using the alternate keys for media controls on any of the keyboards I've tried. I'm not sure if this matters to you guys, but it does matter to me that this has a dedicated print screen button. So thank you, Royal Kludge. Anyhow, let's move on. The keys here are double shot PBT keycaps in Cherry Profile. Cherry Profile is the profile I got used to after all these years, and it probably is my favorite. I'm glad that Royal Kludge didn't go with OEM because that keycap profile is okay, but not entirely so for me. Recently, I've been leaning into a little more of the lower profile keys, and it's starting to feel like a pain having to use taller keycaps. But as a YouTuber, I am forced to try out keyboards with taller keycaps, so yeah, bring in the pain. The stabilizers sound a little bit rattly, but not at the level that's bothering, and this is mainly due to the amount of lube put on the stabilizers. I would advise relubing the stabilizers and adding more dielectric grease on the stab wire that goes into the stabilizer stem and the elbows too. On the bright side, the stabilizers are perfectly fitted onto the positioning plate and they're really tight so they don't move around a lot. Royal Kludge does a really good job at all times in terms of stabilizer stability. That sounded redundant, but anyways, moving on. The switches here have 37-gram magnetic switches with no brand in it. So honestly, I'm not sure who made these switches, but they sound okay and they feel okay thanks to the internal lubrication. The factory lube on these switches make it sound less rattly and also allow for a smoother operation up and down. Plus, with the 37-gram springs within, they are what I would consider ultralight. So if you're used to 45-gram springs or anything heavier, then you would need some time to adapt to how light the springs are. But in terms of gaming, below 40-gram spring weight is my standard. Anyhow, here's how the keyboard sounds. Onto aesthetics, this unfortunately is offered in one colorway, and judging from the color combinations, it's pretty much unisex kind of color. And when I judge aesthetics, by the way, I purely base it on my own personal opinion, so if you find this offensive having me judge it with feminine and masculine, then yeah, you do you. I do like the combination of the green hues on the keys along with the brownish orange. I'm not sure if my camera is picking up the colors just right, but yeah, the combination is really good. Plus, I have to say that the contrast on the keycaps are well implemented, except for the greens on oranges. It's just difficult for my eyes to see the legends, but they're on the modifier keys, and it's pretty much common sense that even if you can't read the escape key, you know that that's the escape key, right? I really like that the knob has the same color as the top case and other keycaps too. Anyhow, this has light indicators beside the escape key for num lock, caps lock, and win lock. Then in terms of branding, you get one at the lower right corner of the keyboard with a white RK print. In terms of RGB, you can change RGB modes with the function key and backslash. Then if you want to turn off off RGB, just press on the function key and arrow down, and this will turn down your RGB backlight level. I like that RK went with the north-facing LEDs to somewhat color the air underneath the keycaps and make it appear like floating keys. If you're worried about keycap compatibility due to north-facing LEDs, no need to worry, as modern switches nowadays have long stems in them to accommodate for better keycap compatibility on even north-facing PCBs. So that's pretty much it, and if you have any questions, just let me know in the comment section down below. If you found this video informative, do consider subscribing as it helps out my team a lot, and I will leave links down in the description below on where to get your RK C98. I earn a little bit of commissions from those links, so every purchase you make gets me a cup of coffee, so I'm begging you, get me a cup of coffee so I can make you more videos like this. Toodles, brothers and sisters.